NFL free agency is officially underway, Commanders fans. I'm Jack Sperry, and you are watching the Commanders Report. Today, we are going to be breaking down some free agency targets as NFL free agency officially opens up today on Monday. The official legal tampering period in the NFL is finally here. So we got some our free agency targets to talk about for your Washington Commanders. But before we get into any names today, make sure you go ahead and subscribe to the channel. If the Commanders make a big signing today, we're going to put out another video. So if you want more Commanders content here on YouTube, you want breaking news coverage whenever they make a move this free agency period, go ahead, click that subscribe button for me right now. All right, so now let's get into this. Full Press Coverage here, which is an outlet, says that the two biggest needs for Washington heading into NFL free agency is cornerback and inside linebacker. And they listed some names here in both positions that they think the Commanders are really going to be honing in on here in the coming days. So before we get into anything, the Commanders have about $24.5 million in available cap space for 2023 after they got the Daron Payne deal done earlier this week. So without further ado, let's reveal here the cornerbacks that Full Press Coverage thinks the Commanders should go after this offseason. Cam Sutton and Byron Murphy. So two guys that had pretty solid seasons in 2022. Two guys that I would say are pretty versatile. They can play both outside and inside. They're both pretty darn good corners. They grade well. I wouldn't say that they are top-tier cornerback prospects. However, I like Sutton. I like Murphy. You're going to have to pay about the same, about $12 million per season. I like Sutton a little bit more, though. Murphy has had some struggles in the early years of his career, while Sutton has been more consistent throughout his career. I think that Sutton is the type of guy that he's not a true number one cornerback. That's not what you're paying him to be. You're paying him to be a versatile piece in your secondary that can play both inside, to play in the slot if needed. Somebody that on championship teams, you need that guy that can play inside, that can play outside. Having a guy like that on your roster is incredibly valuable, which is why you're going to be paying him $12 million per season. So if the Commanders signed a guy like Sutton, a true cornerback 2, a really, really solid cornerback 2 for your secondary, I would take that. But paying $12 million for Byron Murphy is a bit rich for me. And then they also went over inside linebacker targets to go after in free agency. Number one on their list was David Long, the inside linebacker from the Titans. He's going to be worth about 4 years, $40 million total, so $10 million per season. That's a pretty hefty price. He's a little undersized, but he consistently grades as one of the highest graded inside linebackers in the league. Very solid option if you are the Commanders. Then you got another guy here in Azeez Al-Shaair, who I think is a fantastic value right now. You got 2 years, $9 million total for a 4.5 average for a guy that's really, really talented. He got overshadowed a bit in San Francisco, I think, with Fred Warner and Dre Greenlaw being some of the best linebackers in the game. Al-Shaair is very, very solid. He's going to be a really good player and a really great value pickup for some team in the National Football League. Maybe it could be the Commanders. Next up on their list, Drue Tranquill. And Drue Tranquill is somebody that I see as kind of like an average inside linebacker. I don't see anything special in his game. And to pay a guy 3 years, $24 million, and all these dollar figures, by the way, all these projections come from Pro Football Focus. I think that's a bit too much for Drue Tranquill. I think that, if I could choose between getting a guy like Azeez Al-Shaair for just $4.5 million per season versus a guy like Drue Tranquill for $8 million a year, I'm taking Al-Shaair all day long. Next up on the list, very expensive option, the most expensive option here on the list per season, that is, TJ Edwards from the Eagles. Now, TJ Edwards, not the most athletic guy in the world, but he's got great instincts. He's one of the best overall and complete inside linebackers in the league when it comes to coverage, when it comes to run protection. This guy's as solid as they come, but he's going to come at a pretty decent price tag there of 3 years, $40.5 million. That is the most annual salary on this list. So if you want to splurge and get one of the best inside linebacker prospects in this year's free agency class, TJ Edwards is the Commanders' guy. Then finally, another relatively expensive option here in Bobby Okereke, who was playing for the Colts. He had a really good season this past year, but you're going to have to pay him about $11 million per season, and you're going to have to give him a long-term commitment there with that 4-year contract. Good player. Not sure if I would pay that much for him, but I think that he's a good player. I wouldn't mind it whatsoever if the Commanders picked him up. So go ahead and go into the comment section right now and tell me, what is the biggest team need for the Commanders? Is it interior offensive line? Is it inside linebacker? Is it cornerback? Is it quarterback? Let me know in the comment section what you think is the biggest team need on the Washington Commanders roster. Can't wait to hear you guys' responses. And until next time, guys, peace.